It's up to the neighbors and up to the people to decide if they want to reconsider. Opus, you know, we've had some conversations with them. They're discouraged, of course, but under the right circumstances, if they were invited back, they're happy to sit down with the neighbors.
I didn't know what had happened, and I just kept screaming, help me, and my roommate came upstairs saying, get out of the room, your room's on fire, but I don't remember ever seeing a fire.
This is the aftermath. Is that another one?
Yeah. We care about the land. We care about what the Creator has given us. All that He's given us. Land, water, air, all the animal nations, everything you see.
That will be having National Night Out on August 6th, the evening of August 6th. And we want to join in on that. The City of Duluth and Violence Free Duluth are working together to try to encourage people within their neighborhood. Get out in the yard and pull all the kids together and play a game.
It's nice to know when I look up and I see down the block, and I look down the block, if I know who belongs to that house and that they're supposed to be there, I'll give them a smile and a wave. And if I see something out of the ordinary that, you know, I've never seen this person in my neighborhood before, I'll take a little bit more notice.
Together and play a game of baseball or stickball or whatever that might be. But just the City of Duluth and Violence Free Duluth are working together to try to encourage people within their neighborhoods to do something.
And here are the same exact spot. And looking on the velocity pattern, I don't see a whole lot of indication of strong circulation there.
3 weeks ago, a brutal line of thunderstorms marched across the region, and Doppler radar knew all of its secrets. This cutting-edge system can see into the heart of a storm and tell us a lot more than how hard it's raining. It all starts here in a giant golf ball-shaped dome outside the Duluth airport. A beam of energy is shot out in a continuous sweep. When that signal hits something, part of it bounces back to the radar. That allows a new system to pinpoint where it's raining, how fast the showers are moving, and most importantly, the wind speed and direction inside the individual storms.
So you have 30 knots.
Spike there. Right. So here it is showing some pretty darn good rotation, although it's not as strong as we would like to see for a tornado or as intense.
It's a little diffuse right there.
Right. Exactly. We would want it. The two major inbound and outbound pixels right next to each other to have.
So far, the Duluth radar hasn't seen a tornado, but the Minneapolis site has not been so fortunate. On July 12th, a tornado struck just south of Alexandria in western Minnesota. This is how the storm looked to Doppler radar. The bright reds and yellows show winds that are moving away from the radar at around 50 miles per hour. The blues and greens show movement toward the site at the same pace. When they're located right next to each other, it's a strong indication that a tornado is on the ground. This kind of forecasting precision has made a favorable impression on meteorologists.
Every day we see things that this radar produces for us in the way of images that we never thought we could see before. It's incredible. It's some of the best dollars that the country has ever spent nationwide, bar none, without any reservations. We're extremely pleased.
Since this radar has 5 times the sensitivity of the model it replaces, Northlanders can expect far more detailed forecasts for severe weather. In addition, when wintertime rolls around, this system will open whole new windows on lake effect snow. But let's not worry about that quite yet. George Kessler, Channel 6 News.
Well, I think because we're dealing with federally regulated railroad, an Indian reservation, and potential charges of interstate commerce violations, we feel that a federal mediator would be the way to go here.
After 5 years, there's going to be no more really historic days that have built America.
Welfare has failed the taxpayers, and it has failed the very people, worst of all, the very people who it seeks to help. And Senator Wellstone keeps voting no.
We're very happy to have it back. A lot of people were very upset when it went to Fort Worth, and I think they're going to be pleased to see it back.
Duluth.
On July 3rd, a young Rice Lake man woke up to hear someone prowling around in his driveway. He picked up something to protect himself and went outside to see what was going on. A thief, who was stealing the stereo out of the young man's car, saw him coming and slashed at him with a screwdriver. They scuffled and the thief stabbed the victim in the chest and ran off. The victim chased him down the road and saw the thief jump into a waiting car which sped off. The thief is a slim, white, 20-year-old male, over 6 feet tall. He's a violent person who needs to be caught. Call Crime Stoppers if you know who he is. We'll pay rewards up to $1,000 and keep the caller's name a secret. Our numbers are 1-800-974-TIPS or 723-ENOUGH. That's 723-3683.
Shock to me. The police called us this morning because when they arrived here, obviously there was no staff to help with the residents. So we got staff in here. The residents are safe. Everything was fine, and other than what happened last night, it's the first that I had any clue of anything happening.
I think it's important to the city of Duluth to come. There aren't very many places that you can actually experience the history of the city. It's a nice memory.
I know that the Blues Fest office is probably going to take a few hours off to recuperate, and then they're going to be right back on it planning the schedule and the lineup for next year.
Shopping center is on the upper corner.
Mostly with Seaway Engineer, who is working on the intersection along.
The motion is being made by Commissioner DeGraio to good job. The more specific description
First of all, we're citizens in the National Guard. We view ourselves as citizens first and military second. And one of the jobs that I need to do is continue to maintain that relationship and strengthen it.
Started as a 4-H volunteer, 4-H member, 4-H leader. I've been a 4-H leader 37 years, so that kind of gets in your blood. And I guess fair gets in your blood too.
There are no caps and gowns at this graduation ceremony, but there is pride, dedication, and self-respect. See, these kids are graduating from a program started just this year by St. Louis County. It's the dream of Bill Crone.
This program is especially designed to hit kids at an early age. These kids are 11 to 15 years old, and we want to give them an opportunity to serve their community and to become involved in some kind of positive activity as a reward for their service to the community.
You want 20 of these? $2? Sure? Okay.
That positive activity is called the Incredible Exchange. Kids like 14-year-old Nick Malinkovich sign up to volunteer their time and skills in places they choose, like here at the Valley Youth Center in Duluth. The exchange part comes in when kids earn enough volunteer credits to put towards ski passes, music lessons, or in Nick's case, a brand new bike.
I liked working with people here and volunteering when kids were lonely or something, then I just go over there and play a game with them or something. And if I get an opportunity to work again, I would like to.
But the Incredible Exchange is not just about bikes or ski passes. This is a program that makes a positive link between our communities and our kids.
Oh yeah, it was pretty cool because, I mean, it's really great staff around here.
In Duluth, Ann Carroll, Channel 6 News.
Now, this fall, we're going to see a new national record with this 51.7 million children in our nation's public and private schools. That's the total number of young people who will be in our schools, public and private. And as is shown, it breaks the record set 25 years ago in 1971.
First, our goal is food, shelter, and hope. The food and shelter sometimes is the easier part of it. The hope has to deal with dealing with the spirit of the individual. And that has to be a commitment that we have to make with those folks, and those folks have to be willing to make with us. Are they ready at this point to do something positive with their lives? And when they are, we're ready to help them.
Which direction do you see it moving in? Other things that are...
They did a super job. They
I've never worked with crews this good. They came in, they carried a real positive, can-do attitude, and they were in good physical shape. They also did real well mentally, adjusted to the living we expect from them, and did a super job learning, and they're ready to go.
He had been arrested twice and had threatened to kill her in public at least 3 times.
And those threats did turn deadly for Sandy Johnson's 30-year-old daughter, Sherry. She was murdered 2 years ago in Superior by her husband, who then turned the gun on himself. Sherry is yet another victim of domestic violence, a problem that seems to be getting bigger. But a program in Douglas County is taking steps to make sure women threatened by the violence feel safer.
Now we are providing phones to victims who don't necessarily have easy access to a phone and who may be in their car and being harassed, and they now can pick up the phone and say, I need help immediately, and get it. So we're real excited about that.
The program is a joint effort between the Center Against Sexual and Domestic Abuse, the Superior Police Department, and Cellular One. The company will provide the center with pre-programmed cell phones that will be given to stalking victims for protection. With the touch of a button, those victims will be able to get in touch with authorities for help.
The phone enhancement, of course, will make it easier for the officers to respond while a situation is ongoing, and it'll increase our chances for apprehension of the perpetrator. And I think this will really help the victim realize that all they have to do is punch in a code number and the police are on their way.
The program is the only one in Wisconsin and will serve 5 northwestern counties, including Douglas, Washburn, and Bayfield. It's a program that will hopefully save lives.
Every domestic call should be taken like it's life-threatening.
In Superior, Ann Carroll, Channel 6 News.
Let's head into the chart room. All right.
The kids develop the storyline themselves with trying to weave together human things, mechanical things, and also nature as elements.
Raise a lot of noise and hopefully win another election.
Have you been to conventions before?
I only been.
Basically, this is a high-tech.
A neo-Republican within the party, and I think that's part of the debate that's going on. Which Bill Clinton is coming out now? Was he catering to the left wing of the party during the first couple of years of his term, and is he becoming more like himself, which I happen to think he is, or is he becoming more conservative because that's where the country is?
We all really believe that this is a great way to shrink the world and to have harmony.
They've got a lot on their minds. New teachers, new friends, new classrooms, and often they're not paying the attention they should to traffic. That means drivers should be particularly alert. It also means parents should sit their kids down and remind them of the dangers.
He's got his 4-way flashers on. This is a hazard warning, which means you can pass this bus, but you can't You've got to pass it with caution.
In Hibbing, bus safety experts took advantage of a captive audience at the racetrack to share a lesson in safety.
Vehicles coming towards this bus should slow down. Vehicles behind this bus should slow down because it is going to stop.
This tragic accident in Hill City, Minnesota last year brings home to us that it can happen here. On May 12, 1995, 14 people were injured, 1 killed when a car collided with a school bus. And in Illinois last year, 7 children were killed when a bus was hit by a train. Bus drivers are warned to use extra caution when crossing tracks.
New drivers go through approximately 8 hours of classroom training and 15 hours of behind-the-wheel training. And the state requires up to 8 hours of continuing education for existing drivers every school year.
But most school bus-related accidents happen when kids are getting on or off the bus.
Don't go on the front, don't go on the side. You have to stand 10 feet away from the bus.
Good.
The area around the front, back, and wheels of the bus is referred to as the danger zone. But inside a school bus can be a danger zone too. Last year in the Twin Cities, 2 children were killed when they stuck their heads out of a moving school bus.
Most important rule when you get on the bus is to sit down in that seat, right?
Barbara Riles, Channel 6 News.
Well, I have spelling, English, social studies, the math, you know, the regulars, and then I have Spanish and music.
What do you like about Marshall?
I think I know I'm going to like having, you know, a smaller classroom. And
1924. How many are there of us?
This is like eating at home.
Orville Erneman has been eating lunch like this for most of 40 years now.
I hated this dinner because we could never eat fair food.
It's different this year, though. Sure, daughters and husbands and children and friends eat together as usual, but this year they wore special T-shirts because
this might be the last year.
He told me this is going to be his last year 40 years ago.
He keeps promising he's not going to exhibit anymore, and then he keeps beating Ron in the show ring with his hugs. So Ron wants him to retire.
In the show ring, that's what has kept Orville Erneman putting that exhibitor number on, even after he'd retired from farming. This year, he showed in 5 categories in the open class of Berkshire Hogs.
Somebody may wonder what all these red shirts are out here. It just happens to be Orville Erneman's 40th year of showing. Let's give him a good round of applause.
It may seem difficult to understand the attraction, but Orville Erneman has shown 3 Grand Champion hogs, quite a few reserve Grand Champions, and lots of champions. So even when he takes a third, there's still an appreciative audience to offer support. Ken Speak, KARE 11 News at the Minnesota State Fair.
The Cloquet Co-op Credit Union on 7th Avenue East and 4th Street in Duluth was robbed at 8:45 in the morning on Monday, August 26th. A lone male entered the building from the west and ordered the tellers to fill plastic Cub food bags with money. His face and body were covered, but witnesses noted he was about 5'7", at least 20 years old, with a slender build. He quickly collected the bags into a leather satchel he had draped around his neck. He then ran out the door and south across the alley towards 3rd Street, where he either stuffed his outer clothes into the satchel or got into a waiting car. Maybe you heard someone planning this robbery or bragging about it. Call Crime Stoppers and tell us what you know or what you suspect. We'll give up to $1,000 reward and never ask the caller's name. Our numbers are 1-800-974-TIPS or 723-ENOUGH. That's 723-3683. How'd you wind up in here?
Respond to anything that is said about you. And this literature, I just want to mention, at best it's vague, and at worst it's untrue, but it really is misleading. And
whatever police officer group endorses a candidate, then the rank and file of that organization should have had an opportunity to make a decision on who they want to endorse.
She's going to go to that post.
Hi, it's Colleen. I'm just wondering what you've heard on the scanner. We're out of the car, and of course, wearing a baseball jersey, dark-colored baseball jersey, carrying an unknown type of handgun, fleeing northbound. Let's go. We can follow up. Yeah, don't follow. We're going to get arrested. This district here?
Crime is increasing in Duluth, and city officials are trying to combat the rise. Would adding more officers to patrol the streets make them safer? One Duluth city councilor says yes. David Wheeler and the city council will vote whether to increase taxes by $200,000 a year to pay for the new officers.
It isn't popular to ask people to pay $4 more a year in taxes. But when they think about the payback to the community and the difference it's going to make for our children and future generations.
If the budget is approved, 15 new officers would hit the streets by 1998. So what did Duluthians think about this? People we talked to said they would pay higher taxes if it meant greater safety.
I think in this neighborhood we need it. I don't mind paying a few extra bucks to have somebody come up here when I need them.
It's not that I want to pay more taxes, but we do need more police protection. We've had problems in this neighborhood, and it's not worth having cheaper taxes if you can't be taken care of.
Duluth Police Chief Scott Lyon says by putting more police officers on the street, they hope to deter crime and make people feel safer.
What we've got to do is get in and make sure that the bullies aren't affecting people's lives so that they and their families can go on and do what they want to do. Once people feel that safety, I think they become more involved. They become more involved in neighborhood activities and different things.
Can't do it alone. Earth.
The holes in the killer's doorway show the destruction an automatic weapon of the sort used to kill Corporal Dick Parquet can wreak. With one squeeze of the trigger, Ronald Fisher's converted Colt AR-15 rifle fired 12 to 20 bullets. This is just like the gun Fisher used to kill Deputy Parquet. This is a legal semi-automatic, but with one added part or a simple adaptation of the trigger assembly, this can be converted to an M16, fully automatic, just like the weapons used by U.S. soldiers in combat. Authorities in Bayfield County don't know whether Fisher bought the gun as an automatic or made the illegal conversion himself.
You could file the sear off from the receiver and the bolt and the trigger assembly, and you can buy a new adaptation now that goes between the trigger and the trigger guard that spring-loaded.
Colt doesn't make the part necessary for converting its AR-15 to automatic, but other companies do. Channel 6 Internet reporter Chris Hussey was able to find instructions to make the conversion easily.
Basically, it was very simple. All I had to do was enter a few keywords, and within minutes, I was actually able to find a source that would provide me with the information that I needed. Actually, they provided it in the form of a video.
That easy transition is something that concerns Duluth Police Chief Scott Lyons.
What do we want to do with a person who says that they should have a right to carry a gun that's fully automatic that shoots 100 rounds a minute? I mean, what sense does that make?
The gun is also inexpensive. The converted gun used to kill Deputy Parquet would run under $100. Many in law enforcement say something should be done to make it harder to adapt semi-automatics, and the price should be raised. In Duluth, Barbara Riles, Channel 6 News.
Families in my state. That's the difference between the two of us. So,
Senator Wellstone speaks a lot about the need for good-paying jobs. But, Senator, you simply can't be pro-jobs and anti-small business at the same time. You've consistently voted for higher taxes. You've consistently voted for more regulations on small business. Those are anti-job votes.
Rudy Boschwitz tried to get rid of the Small Business Administration. I don't know what he was thinking. It's critical to have access to capital for small businesses. Third area is tax relief. I voted for a cut in the capital gains tax targeted to small businesses. Finally, what's not taken care of in this bill, and what I worry about, is some of these big insurance companies are going to say to Minnesotans, okay, you had a bout with breast cancer, we won't deny you coverage or you can shift your job, but you know what? We're going to charge you $10,000 a year premium. Now, Rudy Boschwitz, while he has been in the Sultans,
It's still hard to imagine. Even though 51,000 people honored their hero less than 2 weeks ago, it's still hard to accept the fact that glaucoma changed the life of Kirby Puckett.
On March 27th, I went to the ballpark and I got 2 hits off Greg Maddox. As a baseball player, believe me, that's hard to do, but I did it. On March 28th, I woke up and I couldn't see out of my right eye.
One of Kirby Puckett's new careers includes letting folks know about glaucoma and how a new drug, Zalatan, offers improved treatment.
Glaucoma can be managed surgically and it can be managed medically. There have been a few advances recently in the medical side of glaucoma management. This probably is the biggest one in quite some time.
Dr. Tom Samuelson is one of 10 ophthalmologists in the Twin Cities who specialize in the treatment of glaucoma. He says half the people who have glaucoma don't realize it. But because of Kirby Puckett's experiences, far more know about it now than did after the then President of the United States was diagnosed.
George Bush was diagnosed with glaucoma probably the late 1980s, maybe earlier than that. And there was some increased awareness among the general population at that time, but nothing compared to what has happened with public awareness now that Kirby Puckett was diagnosed with glaucoma.
Dr. Samuelson says because folks tend to forget, his group will be doing a general glaucoma screening in November, while Kirby Puckett's experiences are still fresh in the mind. Ken Speak, KARE 11 News.
He looks like any other junior roaming the halls of Prior Lake High.
Good job.
Thanks.
Awesome.
But observe the respect he commands from his peers, and it's clear that 16-year-old Brendan Holloman has gifts and talents that go far beyond academics.
I really don't think I'm a hero. I think I did what anybody in that position should have done.
What he did was help save lives at the scene of this crash in Mesa, Arizona last March. A semi-truck had plowed into 5 other vehicles, killing a pregnant woman and injuring 15 people, 9 of them critically.
I heard the screeching of the tires and the metal and all that, so I looked over the fence to see what happened, and I saw the semi and the cars.
Visiting his grandparents in Arizona during spring break, Holloman had just completed an American Red Cross safety course 4 days earlier.
Other 2 younger kids were left alone, so I sat and helped the older one. And I put my shirt across his neck because there was a laceration on the back, controlled bleeding.
In addition to controlling severe bleeding, Holloman treated several victims for shock and rescued 2 infants trapped in the wreckage of a car.
To Brendan Holloman for selfless and humane action in saving a life. Issued in Washington, D.C., May 14, 1996.
6 months after the fact, Holloman was awarded the Certificate of Merit from the American Red Cross. Signed by President Clinton, it is the organization's highest honor.
Oh, man. This is like pretty embarrassing, isn't it?
Back at school, he's the object of some good-natured ribbing, but everyone knows what he did, and Brendan Holloman knows he'll never forget the lesson he learned one day at an intersection in Mesa, Arizona.
Life's a very precious thing. One moment you can be living a perfect life, the next minute one person can make a mistake and you're paying for it.
Personally, I know that most of us share common beliefs and goals.
Using both. I'm using the auto settings. Take a look.
crime has plagued Duluth's Central Hillside in recent months. Gunfire rang out at this house on 6th Street last month. A woman was found dead in this apartment on 7th Avenue and 5th Street. One of the more recent violent crimes was the death of Paul Antonich. The minor traffic accident that later led to his death occurred at this intersection at 6th Avenue East and 9th Street. The meeting at Duluth Central Hillside Community Center will get neighbors together and face the reality of violence everywhere.
From the Central Hillside has always had a volatility about it, sometimes because of just the amount of people that are put into that area. And we do have things that happen, and there's a real mix of economic status and old people and young people and all kinds of diversity in the neighborhood that sometimes may create some of the problems.
The meeting will bring the community together to talk about the increase of violence.
The police department can no longer be the sole fighters of the crime problem. It's going to take a partnership between the police department and the community. And together with the community, then maybe we can reduce crime.
The guest speaker will bring his tactics from being a law enforcement officer in Maryland and how they have reduced crime. He will be teaching and talking about his methods that have worked and how we can make it work in our communities too.
It's the quality of life issues. You know, people that are inundated with criminal activity surrounding them every day, they're tired of it and they want something to be done.
You can get your cut shots, Christy. On the streets, people are just sick of it. They need something to do, and it doesn't just happen on the Central Hillside. It's just been happening there recently.
Study of how sheep eat weeds. Paul Wellstone, embarrassingly liberal.
This ad featuring a sheep munching weeds is the latest volley in the political war between Wellstone and Boschwitz. It was fired by the Republican National Senatorial Committee, which believes first-term Senator Wellstone is vulnerable. Depending on what part of the country you live in, name-calling and rough-and-tumble political ads like this one can be effective. But what about the Northland? These experts at a Duluth advertising agency say no.
My feeling is that may work in the Twin Cities area, but I don't think it's going to work in northern Minnesota. I think those attacks on Wellstone just are not right for this market, and my guess is that they're not going to help Rudy in this market.
Our experts say successful campaigns rely on three basic truths of advertising: provide a benefit to the viewer, be consistent with the message, and have the best timing. The Boschwitz camp can claim easy victory for the latter.
They were out of the gate, first out, against Wellstone, before anybody even could get their feet on the ground and think, what are we going to do for ourselves? And they were already attacking. So I think their timing, if that was their strategy, works well.
No figures are available on how much is being spent solely on television ads, but we do know the campaign's net operating expenditures from April 1st to August 21st of this year. Some goes to pay the lights and rent, but it's safe to say a lot of it pays for statewide television ads. The Federal Election Commission reports People for Boschwitz has spent $640,000 during the latest 5 reporting months. Wellstone's campaign has spent $1.2 million, or nearly twice as much. But these figures don't take into account money spent in Minnesota by the National Republican Senatorial Committee.
Rudy Boschwitz is letting them run the very negative campaign. That's good for him, because then he can position himself apart from them.
The committee reported raising $79 million nationwide to elect Republican senators. Its Democratic counterpart has raised $11 million. People in the Wellstone camp estimate since May the Republicans have spent over $1 million in Minnesota to run ads like this. Both camps have drawn a line in the sand here in Minnesota with more than enough cash to fuel the fight until Election Day. But is it money well spent?
Every year, he and his wife Sheila donate the pay raise to help combat domestic violence. Paul Wellstone, you know where he stands.
Rudy Boschwitz, protecting Minnesota values. Rudy Boschwitz, making us proud.
McIntosh, Cortland's, and Wolf Rivers. They have them all. Even though Bayfield's apple orchards have a decrease in apples, the Hausers say there's still more than enough.
I would say 60–75% of a full crop. There would be plenty of apples for anybody that wants to buy apples, though, so don't worry about that.
Jim says the early apples make up most of the crop loss. Those are the ones used to make cider. He says last summer's drought is the cause for this year's decrease, but he is optimistic about next year.
You got to have good good moisture conditions the year before. And the way that moisture was in June and July this year, I don't see any problem for next year.
Jim's wife, Marilyn, says she looks forward to apple picking season because it's like a family reunion.
We've got 2 girls in Minneapolis. They come home. My son is in Milwaukee. He comes home. The only one that isn't coming home is the one that's in Italy, and it's kind of a long trip.
And when the kids do come home, they all can expect to help pick apples.
Stuff like this we'll leave on the tree. We'll come back in a few days and they'll color up more. They'll size up more. Apple like this would be ready to go.
This apple orchard has been in the Hauser family since the 1920s. Each apple is hand-picked. They produce about 5,000 to 6,000 bushels a year. In Bayfield, Molly Boyum, Channel 6 News.
To conduct the meeting and portray to the community. I do know that in the first round of interviews with the people for the survey, there were some questions they felt needed more elaboration, and therefore they did recall, I understand, most of those people, and took a little longer necessary. Plus, they did do an independent audit of the findings by an independent company so that, you know, all the facts are out there, that it's not a bias on anybody's part.
I think generally there's still a big need for open, flat spaces for softball, football, soccer. You know, in a land of hills that we have for Duluth, that's a little bit tough at times.
Why would a person that drives cars that fast want a 20-mile-an-hour tractor? No.
Our intention at the coalition is not to harm the retailers, but we really...
We're finding greater and greater evidence that smoking is an addiction, and that adolescents that start have a very difficult time quitting once they have started. And
It does satisfy an urge to fly, and you'd be surprised how many of the club members are actually real airplane pilots.
Oh, really?
Either World War II, Vietnam, Korean War, Army, Air Force Reserve pilots right now. But this is Unlike flying a real airplane, you've got all this companionship around you.
Okay.
Beginner wants a lot of these airplanes, if they last, like I was telling you, some of these airplanes last one flight. Some they've been flying for, 10 years, 10, 15 years. It just depends. When the balsa God wants you, he takes you.
State law requires a 15% ceiling on a school's minority admittance over the community's minority population. In Duluth, that sets a limit on the number of children of color entering magnet schools. And when the school is over that limit, minority children are told to go somewhere else.
The school district is saying that minority children cannot be magnet students because that will affect their racial balance at the magnet schools. And to me, that you're telling someone that they can't go to a certain school because of their race, that's discrimination, and that's a violation of the Civil Rights Act.
Lindy Grell's 2 children were told they couldn't go to Grant, one of 3 magnet schools, because of the balance issue. Grell appealed and her kids got in. The variance the board will vote on tonight will allow more kids like Grell's to go to the school of their choice. But some parents say that's not solving the problem.
The school board has the authority to make their own policies, and so far they haven't taken that initiative. And I believe that by lack of action, they are condoning discrimination.
School board member George Ballach says each application to magnet schools is treated individually. He adds the issue of desegregation and whether its goals are being met is a worthy discussion he and other board members can hopefully go into tonight. Maureen Tallarico, Channel 6 News.
Trailers or
that
on the front page?
oh that
Counselor Hales? Tractor trailers that...
I've never...
The question I was looking at is the 24-hour...
The building official can give him what the building official deems to be a reasonable time, and I suppose if the thing is sunk into the mud or, there's some other unusual thing, they could give him more time than that, but they probably generally would give him 10 days or something like that, maybe 20 days.
It's an insult for Al Gore to come here on this lake while allowing the threat of acid contamination in Lake Superior.
snowplows tried to clear nearly 40 inches that was dumped on the Northland in the 1991 megastorm. Winds reached up to 60 miles per hour and snow drifts up to 10 feet high. Residents attempted to get around town as tires spun, got stuck, and slid into each other. The Northland was socked in for days, but some people had fun with the weather. Jerry Pollard remembers that holiday well.
There was places where you had kids coming out of second-story windows off of porches onto the snowbanks, and they thought that was really neat. So, I mean, there's some humor to it, but nobody could believe it. Everybody just come out and look, no, it can't be. This is way too early for this.
He spent that Halloween and the entire weekend shoveling. We interviewed him back then after he spent nearly an hour digging out his car.
I should have waited another 4 hours to a day, it looks like, so the plow wouldn't plow me back in after I dug. Like, I just dug here, and I've got about 45 minutes digging done. That's down the tubes, and I get to start over again. Life in Duluth.
We also talked to Paul Johnson, who was one of the few people who was able to get around the city on a snowmobile.
We got up at like 7:30 and started snowmobiling as soon as it started coming down.
What we didn't know when we interviewed him back then is that 5 years later, Paul would be working as a Channel 6 photographer.
I didn't even know I was on tape until we found it this morning.
Even though Paul didn't remember we interviewed him, he did remember that day.
It was great. I mean, it only happens once in a lifetime where you get that much snow and you can ride your snowmobile down any street in the town.
That holiday 5 years ago was memorable, but one many Northlanders just aren't ready to relive. In Duluth, Kim Steininger, Channel 6 News.
And it is what happened today in Minnesota. What Rudy Boschwitz attempted to do is it's just a really unconscionable and really it's shameful.
Vote, but yeah, it turns you off. I don't like to see all the negativity. There's enough of it in the world as it is, and you know, especially between Boschwitz and Wellstone.
It doesn't really bother me like it does a lot of people. I like to hear. I'm really into the character. I like to know a person's character that's going to be serving as presidents.
It's really not the right thing to do, but when they all do it, I suppose you could say the one offsets the other. If one guy does it and then the other guy does it, it kind of balances. But
well, I think it adds somewhat to the cynicism, but it's to be expected at this time of the year.
I just, basically, I guess I don't really feel anything. I just don't think that it's right, and so I guess it makes me, the ones that are doing it makes me more want to not vote for them and not look at the issues.
No, it hasn't turned me off from the elections, but certainly it's not very positive, and oftentimes I wish that it was done differently.
I do feel that the negative campaigns have been extremely negative this year, and some have bothered me and I think will influence how I vote, but I will definitely get out and vote.
Coming up today on Live at 5, Duluth bomb squads blew up a suspicious package left on 2nd Avenue and 2nd Street early this afternoon. Eyewitnesses say a man dropped off the package. With it was a note referring to the victims of TWA Flight 800. Police decided to blow up the package after blocking several streets and evacuating nearby buildings. Coming up on Live at 5, we'll take you live to the scene to talk with people who found the bomb as this breaking story unfolds. Carolyn Voorhees is shot and killed by her husband outside the Duluth care facility where she works. Deputy Dick Parkett is shot and killed in Hayward by a man lying in wait. Michael Schmidt is shot and killed after an argument with his brother in Hibbing. And Paul Antonich is found in the trunk of his car. He's been shot execution style and dumped in a ditch. It is a month-long stretch of violence that leaves many Northlanders in shock.
This murder is a sad reminder that our community, like the rest of the world, is not as secure as it once was. Yet for us to live in fear would be another tragedy. Duluth is still one of the safest, most closely knit communities in the world.
2 months after Mayor Gary Doty spoke those words, we found Northlanders still wondering, are we safe here? An exclusive Channel 6 survey conducted in October found the majority of people felt safe in their homes. Or greatly increasing.
Well, property crimes, smashing into cars and taking stereos or whatever is available on the front seat of the car.
Ron Thorne and other Duluth police officers will tell you that theft is still the most common crime, but violent crime is increasing. Statistics over the past 5 years show crimes against people
Drug trade, especially in crack cocaine, is a
here.
In here, we've had recently people from out of state that have been convicted of drug dealing.
Rob Stenberg's private security firm in Duluth makes a living off people's safety concerns, and lately his company has been very busy.
What we've seen as far as the increase in burglaries in this area, we've been keeping very busy.
Stenberg's clients often install home security systems after being robbed or because a neighbor's house has been hit.
They feel like something's been taken away from them. Their state of mind is a lot of times put as much protection in as the house can possibly need or ever want.
Experts link much of the increase in violent crimes to young people. Duluth juvenile arrests are up 51% over the past 5 years. Police blame courts, which often turn young people loose to repeat their crimes.
I don't think that that the system is really geared to offer a meaningful consequence for wrong acts. And so what happens is kids go through the system. They learn that the system is a huge paper tiger, that it really doesn't do anything of consequence to them, and I think they learn to manipulate the system. I think they learn to operate it, to deal with it, to learn how it works, and I just think it has very little effect on
The police should get these gangs off the streets. That's what they should do.
Is there something?
Start doing more. Start arresting them more for the things that they do. Because our children can't even go out and play.
You are looking at home video shot in Duluth's Central Hillside. It shows a gathering of young men neighbors say are gang members. Young men blamed for a wave of petty crime and intimidation. Francine Enderle says they pointed a gun at her 2 daughters.
Our children can't even go down the store without being harassed. It's terrible.
Jerry Pollard has refused to give in to gang intimidation. For his trouble, he's been vandalized and assaulted several times.
I've got targeted and had threats on me and mine for what I've been doing. So fine. The police can't stop it. This has been going on just since July. We're not in Peru. We're not anywhere. Why do we have to put up with it here? Why is it that they cannot take and end this?
The community can help by knowing what's going on in your block, what's going on in your neighborhood.
Officer Ron Thorne is helping Jerry Pollard and his neighbors fight the gangs he knows are recruiting in Duluth's Central Hillside. You know gang members?
Yes, yeah, I know gang members.
You deal with them on a regular basis?
I talk to them. I talk to them on the street. I've had gang members admit to me that they're members of a gang.
What kinds of crimes are they committing? Do you know?
Well, they're doing a lot of vandalism and breaking into cars, a few assaults, a little bit of extortion possibly, and if they're trusted enough, they may do a little bit of drug dealing. But basically, gang members that I talk to and deal with are in their middle to late teens.
I had 3 flats. Thorne has organized neighborhood block watches. He holds regular meetings with block captains to target trouble spots. This type of grassroots organizing is encouraged by the state. Attorney General Skip Humphrey inspected the programs firsthand a month ago. Humphrey wants an elite gang strike force to work in Duluth to keep the city from developing the gang warfare now common in big cities like Minneapolis.
I think it was 450 to put the info out.
I think if you look at the serious violent crimes that we have in the city, you're going to see that roughly, probably 60 to 80% of it is going to be in one way or another involved with street gangs.
For Minneapolis cop Mike Martin, battling gangs is a full-time job.
If you look at the drugs that are dealt in the city, you're going to see that probably 95% of those are directly dealt by street gangs.
And drug deals mean guns. Minneapolis is headed for a second straight homicide record this year, due mostly, according to police, to guns carried by gang members. In Duluth, gang shootings are not a common problem yet, but narcotics arrests are up 150% the past 5 years.
All right, you claiming anything?
Police fear it's only a matter of time before gangs begin street warfare here.
And if the police don't handle it, there will be warfare on the streets because people are going to have to take it back themselves.
The police have to stay on top of it. We have to be aware of it. We have to actively prosecute and pursue gang activity, and also that involves getting the community involved and getting all the family members involved also.
Yeah, in fact, I want to go on to the family thing. While we're in the same neighborhood, I want to get that reverse question. And then Carolyn Voorhees is shot and killed by her husband outside a Duluth care facility where she works. Deputy Dick Parkett is shot and killed in Hayward by a man lying in wait. Michael Schmidt is shot and killed after an argument with his brother in Hibbing. And Paul Antonich is found in the trunk of his car. He's been shot execution style and dumped in a ditch. It is a month-long stretch of violence that leaves many Northlanders in shock.
This murder is a sad reminder that our community, like the rest of the world, is not as secure as it once was. Yet for us to live in fear would be another tragedy. Duluth is still one of the safest, most closely knit communities in the world.
2 months after Mayor Gary Doty spoke those words, we found Northlanders still wondering, are we safe here? An exclusive Channel 6 survey conducted in October found the majority of people felt safe in their homes. But 34% said they or a member of their family had been the victim of a crime. And almost half the people surveyed felt crime in the Northland is increasing or greatly increasing.
Well, property crimes, smashing into cars and taking stereos or whatever is available on the front seat of the car.
Ron Thorne and other Duluth police officers will tell you that theft is still the most common crime, but violent crime is increasing. Statistics over the past 5 years show crimes against people, murder, rape, robbery, and assault, all up. And the criminal activity most commonly associated with violent crime, drugs, up 150%.
Drug trade, especially in crack cocaine, is a
here.
In here, we've had recently people from out of state that have been convicted of drug dealing.
Rob Stenberg's private security firm in Duluth makes a living off people's safety concerns, and lately his company has been very busy.
what we've seen as far as the increase in burglaries in this area, we've been keeping very busy.
Stenberg's clients often install home security systems after being robbed or because a neighbor's house has been hit.
They feel like something's been taken away from them. Their state of mind is a lot of times put as much protection in as the house can possibly need or ever want.
Experts link much of the increase in violent crimes to young people. Duluth juvenile arrests are up 51% over the past 5 years. In Minnesota last year, people under the age of 24 committed half the murders and 70% of all violent crimes. Police blame courts, which often turn young people loose to repeat their crimes.
I don't think that that the system is really geared to offer a meaningful consequence for wrong acts. And so what happens is kids go through the system. They learn that the system is a huge paper tiger, that it really doesn't do anything of consequence to them. And I think they learn to
A South Lake Avenue motel in Duluth was burglarized early Tuesday morning, November 12th. The inn was storing new television sets and tools in one of their rooms because of new construction and remodeling. At least 2 thieves were aware of the construction project and the location of the storeroom. They forced open the storeroom door and carried off 9 brand new 19-inch Admiral television sets and several power tools with their power packs. They needed at least a pickup to carry off everything. The total loss was over $2,000. Call Crime Stoppers if you know who the thieves are, or if you know someone who got a really good deal on a new television set. We'll keep your name anonymous and pay you up to $1,000 in cash. Our numbers are 1-800-974-TIPS or 723-ENOUGH. That's 723-3683.
I mean, certainly homeless folks and people who are very low income, but there's also, folks who are lonely, who would be by themselves on Thanksgiving.